want to know another crazy thing? I've only ever had to... Like, I've only ever communicated with the police one time. Here in my country, I don't even know, like, what 911 is. I literally don't. Like, if I'm in a life or death situation, I don't know who to call aside from, like, my mother. Yeah, 112. I've never had to call 112 ever in my life. Like, I've never really had to. In Indo, you deal with it yourself. Like, when I was younger, I lived in an area where, like, houses burning are very common. I remember this when I was young. A lot of our houses, like the houses in my neighborhood, would burn, right? It's very common. It was a whole thing. Like, some people, at that time, we have the... I don't know if I can say the words, I'm not gonna. But sometimes, some houses in some areas will miraculously burn or get destroyed out of nowhere. That's so crazy. And then suddenly some people come over and pay the locals to be like, oh, your house is burnt. Oh, do you want money? I can buy your land from you. And then suddenly a building is built there. Oh, that's crazy. So it's a whole thing. A lot of things. It's. I live in a sketchier neighborhood, right? Like, especially back then, Indo back then. Holy sketch. Nowadays, I can't say anything. You know, I can't say nothing, right? But back then, my neighborhood, a lot of sketchy shit where it's like, oh, what a horrible coincidence. This whole neighborhood burned down. I can buy your land because I'm nice. And then they buy your land and then, ooh, a new area is built. Wow. Crazy. So when I was younger, when houses burn, no one calls the fire department. Like, literally, I've never seen like a fire truck come over.
Thank you,
everyone just comes together. This is, I don't know if it's common in your country, but in mine, everyone in the neighborhood would come together. They would bring buckets or hoses or whatever, and they would try to put out the fire themselves. It's kind of like a neighborhood thing. So I've never seen like a firefighter or a police. Shit happens, but no one calls the authorities. You just kind of deal with it yourself. You know, it's like, oh, someone robbed you? Yell. So then like everyone in the neighborhood will like run out and chase after the robber. That's also another thing. Now you understand why I am the way that I am. Yes, I did grow up in a more sketchier neighborhood, but I came from a neighborhood where it's like, you with one person, everyone comes after you, you know? So it's very common if, let's say, I'm outside and someone's trying to like kidnap me, I yell, and then like there are like men, like old men would be sitting on their like their porch or like outside their house. They're like reading a newspaper. They hear something, they put it down, they run. Like everyone would run. And like when like fire happens, everyone runs, they put it out. If there's any violence, people run, they crowd, they help you. All of that good shit, right? Vandalism, anything. The police didn't do shit. It's always the residents. So I've grown up to be a more like, the moment I hear someone say help, my first instinct is to approach the, like, to come with the crowd. Growing up, now I realize that's not too common. Because, okay, you can ask any of my friends this. They've, like, seen me do this, and, like, Kuro has, like, scolded me multiple times for doing this. Every time we would travel, whether it's, like, Kuro or Mata or anyone else, there was a time, like, I was in Japan. There was me, Tenjin. There were a bunch of people, but my cousin was there. And we were in the station, right? And then I heard, like, coins fall. And I was, like, immediately, of course, I look. Like, I do love me some money falling on the ground, you know? And then out of nowhere, I saw this old lady. Her purse basically, like, flipped over and, like, all her coins fell down. And my first instinct, we were rushing, by the way. We were, like, rushing. We're gonna miss some trains. And we had, like, to deal with something. The moment I saw like the money fall, my first instinct was to like immediately help her take the coins and shit. It's not out of kindness. It is just normal. Like, that's how I was raised. Everyone in my neighborhood would do the same. Like, when you see someone in distress, your first instinct is to help. In a way. There were times where it's like the train door was gonna close on someone. Your first instinct is to reach your hand out and stop the door, even though it kind of hurts your arm. That's another common thing. Or like if someone falls, your first instinct is to like help them, either like stop them their fall or to help them up. It's one of those things where, from where I come from, people do that all the time. If someone yells, you run towards them. Kind of a thing. That's why people are like, that's just being nice. Not really. Everyone in my neighborhood would do that plus more, right? But I also realized that some people, they hear yell and they run away. I realized this because one time I was out with some friends and we heard screaming. And when we heard screaming, my first instinct was I turned around and I ran to the screaming. But my friends like held me back. They were like, no, run away. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, what if there's someone with like a knife and they're gonna kill you? And I'm like, oh shit, I never thought about that. So low-key, I might die one day because of this. Like, it's one of those. Thanks, like, oh, for the coming. Low-key, what if I die one day because of this? I might just, honestly. Yeah, we come from if the community doesn't protect you, you're fucked. It's, no one else is gonna save you but your neighbors. So you don't talk to your neighbors, but you care about one another most of the time. It's one of those. Please don't, you're tiny. I need to work out, that's why. Dying from saving another doesn't sound so bad. But that's like, listen, I prefer not to die. But it is nice to help other people, but I also prefer not to die doing it. I thought you were well put together. I don't know, I'm a bit stupid sometimes. In my defense, sometimes I do something and halfway through I regret doing it. Like, you done me and you bet I felt it. I tried to be chill, but you so hot that I melted. I fell right in the quiet. I have tears in my eyes. Before the cool done, I'll be